If we hurry up, we can get out quick. It's going to be a long day. I'd like to get at least one of the people on the other side of the aisle, and we may well do that. Oh. Recognizing a quorum, Secretary call the roll.
Wright?
Here.
Wright present. Harmon? Here. Harmon present. Calderon? Denham? Flores? Negretti-McLeod? Here. Negretti-McLeod present. Oropeza? Oropeza present. Padilla? Here. Padilla present. Price? Here. Price present. Wyland? Yee.
We've got 6. A quorum's established. We have one bill. Assemblywoman Hayashi has item number 1, and since we only have one item, then that kind of makes it you. He's going to present AB 142.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for allowing us to present our bill today. Thank you, members. AB 142 seeks to enhance the funding benefit for education through the California State Lottery Act by potentially increasing the prize payout for lottery games. As we all know, the California budget crisis has had a devastating impact on public education. This legislation will provide a new opportunity for education by securing additional revenue from the lottery. The Lottery Act was passed by the voters back in 1984 with a mission to bring additional funding to schools. And while the lottery has been successful in meeting its obligation to education, there is more that could be done. California's lottery continues to be one of the lowest in per capita sales, lowest in per capita payouts to schools, and has one of the lowest payouts to prize recipients. Other states, including Texas, North Carolina, Florida, have increased both sales and revenue by expanding prize payouts and sales. AB 142 brings California's lottery payout figures in line with other large state lottery systems and opens the door for much-needed funding for schools. Today, I have several witnesses in support with me. I have Mr. Scott Gunn representing GTEC here to testify in support of the bill.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you, Assemblywoman Hayashi. My name is Scott Gunn. I'm a Senior Vice President for GTEC Corporation. We are a leading gaming and technology services company with over 7,500 employees in more than 50 countries. Our primary responsibility is providing services to lotteries around the world. Since 1985, GTEC has been proud to serve the California State Lottery's technology and services partner. And today, our 125 California-based employees support the vast California lottery operations and their 21,000 retailers around the state. Over the past 25 years, GTEC has proudly supported the lottery's mission to maximize returns to public education. In an effort to continue that tradition of partnership, we are here to support passage of AB 142. AB 142 will do several things. First of all, this legislation would eliminate outdated rules that prevent the California Lottery from maximizing payments to schools. As a result of these outdated rules, the California Lottery currently has the lowest per capita sales, the lowest per capita net transfers to the beneficiaries, public schools, and the lowest prize payouts of the 10 most populous states. Secondly, the proposed reforms in the legislation would bring the California Lottery in line with the best performing lotteries. Out of 44 lotteries in the United States, California is in the bottom 5 in terms of scratcher prize payouts at 58% of every dollar, a very low payout for the players. The best performing lotteries have prize payouts between 65 and 70%. The formula is simple. Higher prize payouts equal more sales, which translates to more net revenue. Virtually every other U.S. lottery has implemented higher prize payouts in their scratcher-type games, and every time, without exception, raising the payouts has increased sales and also profits for the beneficiaries. If the prize payouts are amended, if the prize payout restrictions are amended here in California and the changes are fully implemented, we predict the lottery would increase its annual profits by $400 million, bringing total lottery profits for public education to $1.5 billion annually. Third, the bill specifically provides that this reform must generate more money for schools than existing law, or the existing revenue allocation laws will be restored. Simply put, the language provides fail-safe protection for California's public schools. Based on our years of experience in the lottery industry and seeing these reforms work in other states, we believe the California State Lottery will begin to see additional and incremental revenue generation beginning several months after the passage of AB 142. Thank you very much.
Is in support?
Kathy McBride for the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Jack O'Connell. We're in support. Anything that brings additional funding to education, we're certainly supportive of.
Joan Barucki, Director of the California Lottery. We're in support of this bill as well.
Bron Shea Jones, California Charter Schools Association, in support. I know there's some questions about the bill, but we'll thank the author for being open and willing to work with all parties involved.
Are there further witnesses in support? And why don't we queue up, is there opposition? If you're there, why don't we queue that up now as well?
Camden McAfee with Scientific Games International. For the reasons stated previously, we are in support of the bill. Thank you.
Okay. Other witnesses in support, why don't we go to opposition? If there's more opposition, just come forward. Camden, we're going to take your seat if we need it. Thank you, Mr. Mack. Is there further opposition? I want to. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'm Harold Boyd, representing the United Teachers of Los Angeles. I came here with the intent of opposing the bill, but in conversations with the author and her staff, there is some agreement that she will get the groups together to look at this bill a little more extensively. We did not have time to respond to what you have before you. I know the lottery issue because I dealt with it back in 2001, SB 930, when I was with the CTA. And I know there are many questions about what the schools will lose or not lose, and especially in that first year, and secondly, the commission. If you look at the bill, all the percentages remain except that one for education. There might be also a legal question involved, whether or not we can take legislation and change percentages that were in stone in the initiative. And part of the reason that that bill passed was because the beneficiaries were education. A similar plan was put forth in 2001 under SB 930, Senator Vinson. That plan was for 6 years. Eventually it came down to 3 years, but once we had continued meetings and graphs and charts and et cetera, it was clear that education would be paying for the increased prizes. And that's what we're concerned about. The first year, I think we asked ourselves, where do we get the money that's going to pay for the increased prizes? And that answer is it's going to come from the education portion of the lottery funds. There's no guarantee, especially in this climate, in this economic climate, that the funds will increase. I think all we have to do is look at Las Vegas and some of the casinos here in California to know that people are out of work. They're not spending their money on lotteries and gambling at this point. So hopefully we can sit down with the committee, the author of the bill, and work these concerns out.
Okay. I mean, what I hope, as I read the bill, Mr. Boyd, no, you don't have to go. You're good. That's all right. Because there's nobody else coming behind you. That's why we checked. The concern we had certainly was that we didn't swap out. As I look at the bill, is we're talking about growing the pie. Now, there certainly is a moral argument as to whether or not we should engage in growing the pie. But if the pie grows, the actual dollar amount to schools could increase. If the dollar amount doesn't increase, the way this bill works is that you then revert back to the existing formula. So the bill only stays in effect if the dollar amount increases. The argument, again, which is a debatable point, is whether or not changing the formula increases the pie. If it does, then it might be that 35% of a bigger pie on the net could result in more money to the school. If that fails, and I guess this being a gambling bill, if that does not come to pass, then your risk is that you go back to where you were. So the way the bill is crafted, you don't assume any risk per se in that you will revert back to the original formula. The concern is that we're on a per capita basis relative to other lotteries, that we're kind of on the short end. But you're right. If it doesn't work and people don't buy more tickets to go along with the increased payout, then we go back to where we were.
Well, we do, but except for the first year, because currently I think the lottery is giving to education somewhere around $1 billion, if I'm correct.
Right.
Now, let's assume, and hopefully this doesn't happen, that in order for this whole thing to get going, that $1 billion has got to be put into prizes. Now, at the end of the first year, let's say it doesn't work. So education now is out $1 billion for that first year, even though it reverts back to the current law. And I think one of the other issues to go along with this is, establishing the base. What's the base? We don't know what that is. And we need to get that established in order for us to declare that this is how much we're getting now and this is what it's going to be if all of this begins to work. The administrative costs under the bill, they're reducing it by 3% to go into, I assume, the prizes. But under current law, that 3%, if they don't use all the administrative costs, that also reverts back to education. Now, we're looking at L.A., which gets probably the biggest piece of this whole thing, and what it's going to do to black and brown kids in schools where parents can afford to supplement buying materials and supplies, because that was the whole idea behind this this whole initiative. But we are, like I said, these are some of the concerns. The more you talk about it, the more concerns are expressed, but I think the author has good intentions, so we want to sit down with her and try and work this out.
Senator Harmon, do you have a question?
I had a couple questions, Mr. Chairman. First of all, maybe for the author. The witness that just testified in opposition said there was some question about the legality of the legislature having the power, legal power, to amend the Lottery Act, which I guess was an initiative process. Have you gotten, or has anyone provided any kind of a legal opinion from Ledge Counsel or something like that that would cover that issue?
Thank you, Senator. Since the Lottery Act was passed in 1984, this act has been amended 30 times by the legislature. We have done this before. This is not a new practice.
Okay.
And I think the committee analysis also shows that as well.
All right. And then for the gentleman that testified in support, sir, you indicated that the projections were this could increase by $400 million, the revenue that would go to education. Was that the number?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And is that something that's phased in over a period of years, or when will those increases take place? Is that an annual projection, 400 a year, or 400 over a 4 or 5 year period? Give me a little more detail on that, if you would, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Senator. It is $400 million a year annually when the program is fully ramped up, and given the experience of other states, you would expect that full ramp up to occur between 3 and 5 years, but you would have steps as you move up. So,
kind of a stair-step deal.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and other members, for the past several years, some of you probably know, I know the chairman knows, that I've been active and participated in an organization called National Council of Legislators from Gaming States. These are legislators from all around the country that attend conferences usually about once a year. And for the past several years, we have had extensive discussions about lotteries in other states and lotteries in California, and repeatedly there have been very highly technical, qualified speakers from other states and analysts and consultants, and all of them have pointed to California as having an underperforming lottery. And for that reason, I think it's time that we do take a look at California's lottery and try to take the steps necessary to get our lottery to be competitive and performing at the level that they are performing in other states. So I will be very supportive of this bill that we have before us this morning. I hope that it will improve the lottery as performance, and that in turn will help education. That's very important here in California. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Oropesa.
Thank you. I just wanted to get an affirmation from the author that it is your intention to address in some fashion this phase in the first year implication in terms of keeping education whole. That is your intention, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And there are many protections in this bill that guarantees the current funding formula, and we are simply reducing the administrative costs so that there could be a greater payout to the schools. And there's a sunset date here. If it's not working, the schools will always get the current level of funding that they're receiving now. So.
Yes, I understand. The thing that resonated most definitely for me was that first year, that beginning phase-in time, and being able to keep the schools whole in that period. But your intention is to figure that out, make it work.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Very
Senator.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Grady McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is not a question for the author, but mine is kind of a statement. I don't know about the rest of the members here, but I know the biggest question I get in my district is how come the lottery doesn't give any money to the school districts? Most people think that the lottery doesn't give any money to the school districts, and unfortunately, most districts have not used the money, as the gentleman stated, for supplies and other necessary things that school needs. They've put it into the general fund, so the parents never see where the lottery goes. So that's just my comment.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I say just one other thing?
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to clarify that after talking with the author of the bill, we're not here opposing the bill at this point because the author has committed us and other groups to sitting down and trying to work through the issues that we're raising here.
Let me raise two questions, and this will be for the lottery chair, Ms. Baruki. You've run the lottery for how long here in California?
Close to 4 years.
Your experience in running the lottery, do you anticipate that there would be a growth in revenue if we alter the pay formulas?
Most definitely.
the current formula for administrative fees, what occurs if they are unspent under the current lottery law?
Let me clarify that. Under current statutory authority, the lottery has the ability to voluntarily take some of our administrative funds and put them towards prize payouts. We do that today. We take 3% of the 16% of sales that we're allowed to spend on administrative fees. We put them into prize payouts. That's how we get to the 52.5% payout that we have today. At the end of the fiscal year, any remaining funds that we have, whether it's from interest income, my administrative savings, and even unclaimed prizes, go to education. That doesn't change.
Okay. I mean, you were saying the same thing in a different way. So if it turned out that you saw more money to put into prize payouts, then there probably won't be much administrative fee left over.
No, that's not true, because even under today's scenario, there really isn't a clamp on how much my administrative money I can send over to prize payouts, but you still need a certain amount to pay for the bills.
Right.
Under this bill, up to 87%, the commission would decide how much goes into prize payouts, how much goes into would be basically profit to go to education and pay for education. The concept being to maximize, we have to maximize the amount going to education, and it has to be greater than the amount that we give to education today, dollar-wise. A smart lottery director, whether it's me or whoever's there after me, you don't do this. You don't go from the 52.5% to 70% tomorrow. It's just not good business to do that. You need to phase this in over a period of, as Scott Gunn said, a period of 3 to 5 years. And that way you maintain the momentum, you maintain growth year after year. You want to have that sustainable growth in your business in order to generate the additional revenues.
Okay. Any further questions from the committee? It's been moved by Senator Oropesa. Assemblywoman Hayashi, if there are no further questions, you may close on your bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. I think AB 42 will end up providing more revenue to schools, and you know that we very much care about that here in the legislature. As the representative from the Los Angeles Unified School District testified, I will be working with him and others to address their concerns. I respectfully ask for your aye vote today. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the roll on AB 142. And by the way, members, this is a two-thirds vote. The ruling as to how we amend lotteries requires that it be a two-thirds vote, so it's not a simple majority. That's part of the standard by which we can amend the lottery proceeding. Call the roll.
Wright.
Aye.
Wright, aye. Harmon.
Aye.
Harmon, aye. Calderon.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Denham. Flores. Flores, aye. Negretti McLeod. Negretti McLeod, aye. Oropesa. Oropesa, aye. Padilla.
Aye.
Padilla, aye. Price.
Aye.
Price, aye. Wyland. Yee. Yee, aye. Scott, aye.
9 votes. That bill is out. We'll leave the roll open for some possible.
I think we only have our 2 absent members.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Okay, then we'll close the roll, but 9, that's out. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.